Hey everybody, welcome to episode 24 of the AskDAP show, where we answer your Volkswagen and Audi questions. On this episode, we talk about blowing up Mark 7 turbos, CCs with poor fuel economy, Mark 7 misfires, and HID bulb problems. Let's get into the show.
Doug P. via email says, I just bought my 5th VW 2013 CC Sport Plus. Have about 500 miles on it, but I'm getting very poor fuel economy. I'm getting out of a total 2010 TDI Sport Wagon, and I'm getting about 17 to 18 miles per gallon in mixed driving in Northern California. I wasn't expecting anything close to my TDI, but this is a little more than half. After my research, I was expecting about 22 to 25 combined. I am well short of that right now. Engine has no chips, 18-inch wheels. The car did go for a misfire in rear fuel pump. No other fault codes were shown, still under factory warranty. What do I need to look for that could be causing this huge drop in MPG? By the way, I'm not gunning it at lights or kicking in the turbo much at all. Highway cruising at about 75.
Okay, so Doug, if you're having poor fuel economy on a CC, that car should probably get anywhere between probably 20 and maybe in the low 30s on the highway. So if your fuel economy is that low, you have an issue going on somewhere. Now, what that is going to be hard for me to determine, but you said 500 miles, and I'm not sure if that was maybe a typo and you have 50,000 miles. On a 2013 model, I don't see how you would have a 3-year-old car that has 500 miles on it. If it's 50,000, which is probably the case, you might want to look at carbon buildup. That could be contributing to your issue of poor fuel economy, along with maybe coupled with some other issue. So start with the carbon buildup issue on the intake valves. If you're not familiar with what that is, we have an article that we wrote about that I'll link up right here. And then if that's not the case, you're just going to have to get with a dealer and try to track down what's going on, because that fuel economy is definitely much lower than it should be.
Via email has a question concerning an issue he has having with his OEM HIDs. His right headlight does not turn on regularly, but does once in a blue moon. The left one turns on after a couple of minutes of being on, flashes 3 times, and turns off. That being said, I think we can knock out the bulbs if the solution also the igniters as they come with the light bulb. I just tried to install 2 new ballasts, but no luck. I am out of ideas and was hoping to get some advice from guys who have more experience in this.
Okay, so Mike, the issue you're referring to, obviously HIDs flickering on and off. Most commonly this will happen as bulbs are either dying or a ballast issue or igniters like you're referring to. The big thing that I always talk about with this, it sounds like you've kind of done some of the right things, but my biggest question is what bulbs do you use? Because when it comes to HIDs, a lot of people look to, hey, I want the most economical product to replace my parts of my car, because obviously HID parts, bulbs and or modules are extremely expensive. They start looking to aftermarket. And the quality is really very, very huge range in quality when you look at those. There's potential issue when you're replacing it with a non-OEM bulb that it could be the bulb being the issue and not that, and especially since you've already done bulbs and then also modules, the best way to track it down is always to swap components from side to side and see if that happens. Now, if it's the complete vehicle doing it, who knows, you might have a problem with your 519 module, because I'm pretty sure that powers the lights on that vehicle, but would definitely not jump to the 519 module, because that's probably much less likely to be the issue, and generally the bulbs and or ballasts do fix those problems around HIDs.
Antonio G via YouTube says, I have a 2016 Mark 7 GTI Performance Pack. Would you recommend doing the Stage 1 APR tune? I've read up on it, but I've heard the horror stories about turbos blowing up and other issues. The other concern is my car is a manual, and I have also heard about the clutch not lasting too long with the tune. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Okay,
so Antonio, around longevity, around the clutches, turbos, that type of stuff. Turbo issues on Mark 7s were mostly in the early model vehicles. That would have been early 2015 and maybe even somewhere into late 2015, but as far as I know, that was only pretty much models that you would find in the early 2015 production. Our car actually does have the old turbo on it, and While we don't recommend APR because we're a Unitronic dealer, we actually, I can't say that it would be caused by specific software. So a lot of people say, oh, APR kills turbos. It's probably not as likely, although they do run higher boosts, so it could contribute, but it's not going to be killing turbos because those turbos on the cars that were popping turbos, it's happened on stock cars. We know of a dealer locally who does software here, and they said they got like 3 miles on a tuned car and immediately popped the turbo. So I wouldn't contribute that to the tune because most likely it would have popped. It just may have lasted a little bit longer, which you're almost better off expediting the process, assuming you're going to be able to get it covered in a warranty if that happens. But keep in mind, that model, you have a different turbo than the cars that had the turbo issues, so you're less likely to have a problem. Now, that doesn't mean that you're completely out of the woods and you have no potential issues, but I wouldn't suspect it would be an issue on that model. Now, clutches. When you start talking about clutches on cars, holding up. We have a stage 2 tune on our car, which is intake, downpipe, and then also the software to accommodate that stuff. We haven't had any clutch issues. Now, it's my personal car that I drive. I'm not very hard on my cars. I don't street race. I know a lot of guys in a lot of the forums, they do a lot of street racing. They're racing Evos and all these other cars constantly. I've heard of people having clutch issues. So if you drive your car like you stole it, you're probably going to have issues with your clutch. If you drive your car, just spirited driving here and there, have fun with the car, whatever, I wouldn't suspect you would have issues. But obviously, again, anytime you upgrade the vehicle, there's potential you're going to put more stress and potentially need to upgrade your clutch at some point.
Meet Amigo via YouTube says, "Hey Paul, I've been meaning to write in and ask a few things about my MK7 Golf R. I'll start with the one that's the most straightforward, and it is the engine stutter when idling that appears to be common from what I've read on the forums. I have a VCDS, and while I haven't checked for faults recently, I did several times within the first couple thousand miles, and there weren't any misfires. It has done this since the day I bought it, and it really never subsides. I have APR stage 1, which didn't change it at all. I remember on the Mark 6 you could go with R8 coils, but I'm not sure of the options for the new platform. Is there anything I can change to make this stop? It is very annoying, and if I can replace plugs or coils to remedy this, I will."
Okay, so I apologize. We actually were supposed to answer this on the last episode. I said I would, and we missed it. So I apologize for that. Here's the bad news. I have no actionable advice for you. The stuttering you're referring to seems to be a really common thing with the MK7 model. I assume it's probably software related, but it's really hard to say for sure. Our car actually did do the same thing and pretty much has done it, but it seems to be a lot less common now than it was. I don't know if that's because I'm used to it but it was pretty noticeable in the beginning. We actually were able to get our car to set faults, and I brought our car to the dealer to just have a service history record of that misfire that we had it. They have no way to really track down the problem if it's not consistently happening. So basically they just erased the faults, recorded the fact that we had a misfire, and then moved on. I don't suspect that there's going to be any solution anytime soon. There may be some sort of software update at some point, which obviously if you have APR software in your car or any software on your car, you're going to have to get the update, then get your software put back on your car. Once you do that, if they do that update, then obviously the tuners will then take that software to update theirs and make sure that they get rid of that rough idle issue sporadically. So no actionable advice. There aren't any upgraded coils that we're aware of at this time, and spark plugs I don't think are going to help you. So unfortunately, no actionable advice here. Thank you for watching episode 24 of the AskDAP show, where we answer your Volkswagen and Audi questions. If you want your questions answered on a show just like this one, shoot us an email, info@shopdap.com, put AskDAP in the subject line, and we'll see what we can do to answer your question. Be sure to follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We'll have links to all those in the description below as well.